Hey Gossip Fam! Today we're diving into a story that's been blowing up my DMs. It's all about Apple Martin. And trust me, this apple might have fallen pretty far from the tree, or maybe not far enough. You know how we're always talking about Nepo babies living their best lives on social media? Well, Apple Martin, daughter of Gwyneth Paltrow and Coldplay's Chris Martin, is giving us something juicier than your typical rich kid drama. At just 20 years old, she's already stirring up more controversy than her Goop founding mom. And that's saying something. Before we spill all the tea, let's get you caught up. Apple was born into Hollywood royalty back in 2004. And yes, that name caused quite the stir. I mean, who names their kid after a fruit? Chris Martin apparently, because he thought it sounded sweet. But these days, people aren't talking about her unique name. They're buzzing about something way more serious. From alleged bullying scandals that reportedly got her kicked out of one of LA's most elite schools, to some seriously cringeworthy behavior at her debutante ball in Paris, Apple's been making headlines for all the wrong reasons. And get this, while most celebrity kids are trying to prove they're talented enough to deserve their fame, Apple's reportedly struggling to match either of her parents' talents. No music skills like dad, no acting chops like mom, but plenty of attitude, according to those who've crossed paths with her. What makes this story extra spicy is how hard her parents' PR machine is working to keep these rumors under wraps. We're talking NDAs, carefully crafted press releases, and some very convenient official explanations for all the drama. But you know me, I've got the receipts, and we're going to break it all down. Now, before the haters come for me in the comments, remember, we're here to discuss what's being reported, and there are some pretty reliable sources backing up these claims. Plus, when multiple students from both her high school and current university are saying the same things, well, where there's smoke, there's usually fire, right? So grab your drinks, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and let's get into the real story behind Hollywood's most controversial apple. Trust me, this one's going to be extra juicy. And yes, I had to make that apple pun. It was right there. Let's rewind to the beginning of Apple's story, and honestly, this kid was famous before she could even walk. Born in 2004, she made headlines just for her name, which, let's be real, was pretty out there even by celebrity baby standards. As mentioned, Chris Martin was apparently the one who came up with it, telling Gwyneth it sounded sweet. I mean, at least it was a banana, right? Growing up, Apple had the kind of childhood most of us can only dream about. We're talking private jets, mansions in multiple countries, and probably never having to hear the words, "We can't afford it." Her dad was selling out stadiums with Coldplay, while her mom was starring in blockbusters and building her Goop empire. Talk about hitting the genetic lottery. But here's what's interesting. Her parents kept her super private during her childhood. Like, we barely saw any photos of her until she was older. Smart move? Probably. But it also means we don't really know what she was like growing up. Though there is this wild story about Karl Lagerfeld, you know, the Chanel guy, meeting 4-year-old Apple and declaring she'd be a Chanel girl someday. Talk about speaking things into existence. Between her dad's concerts and her mom's movie sets, Apple split her time between London and LA. Must be nice, right? But sources close to the family say she was actually pretty sheltered, attending elite private schools and hanging out mostly with other celebrity kids. Think about it. When your mom's busy selling jade eggs on Goop and your dad's writing songs like Fix You, that's bound to create an interesting perspective on life. The really fascinating part? While most celebrity parents love showing off their kids' talents, hello Kardashians, Gwyneth and Chris were surprisingly low-key about Apple's abilities. No cute singing videos on Instagram. No child acting roles. Nothing. Was this protective parenting? Or maybe something else? Fast forward to today, and that carefully managed childhood has evolved into something totally different. But here's the million-dollar question. Did growing up in this ultra-privileged bubble help or hurt Apple? Because from what we're about to get into next, it looks like having everything handed to you might not be the flex we all thought it was. And speaking of what happened next, oh boy, do I have some tea to spill about her high school years. But we'll get to that drama in a minute. Okay, let's get into the juicy stuff, the Harvard-Westlake scandal that everyone's been whispering about. This elite school where tuition costs more than my car was supposedly where things went seriously sideways for Apple. According to multiple sources, she allegedly bullied another student so severely that the situation turned dangerous. We're talking about the victim reportedly considering self-harm. Yikes. But here's where it gets wild. Instead of this becoming front page news, which, let's be honest, it totally would have for any regular person, the whole thing mysteriously disappeared. Word is NDAs were flying around faster than Gwyneth's wellness newsletters, and there might have been some serious cash involved in keeping things quiet. The official story? Oh, just a casual disagreement between mom and dad about which fancy school their daughter should attend. How convenient, right? Now, this is where the plot thickens. While all this drama was supposedly going down, Apple's team pulled the ultimate PR move. They shifted focus to her glamorous fashion world debut. Suddenly, our girl sitting front row at Paris Fashion Week, living that Chanel dream Karl Lagerfeld predicted. The fashion world ate it up. I mean, who wouldn't? She's gorgeous, she's got the connections, and she knows how to work a camera. But even her big society debut at Le Bal de Débutantes, fancy French for rich kids prom, couldn't stay drama-free. There's this viral clip of Apple straight up photobombing another debutante's moment. And let me tell you, the internet had thoughts. The video shows her swooping into someone else's spotlight faster than you can say, Nepo baby. Social media went wild, calling it classic entitled behavior. The contrast is fascinating. One minute we're hearing about serious bullying allegations. The next she's being presented to society in a custom Valentino gown that took 750 hours to make. Let that sink in. It's giving very much look over here, not over there vibes. What's really interesting is how her parents handled all this. While the alleged Harvard-Westlake incident got buried in PR spin, they were front and center at Le Bal, presenting this perfect family image. Chris Martin, Gwyneth, and even her brother Moses all showed up to support her society debut. Talk about damage control done right. But wait until you hear what's been happening at Vanderbilt. So, what's Miss Apple been up to at Vanderbilt? Well, according to students who've spilled the tea on social media, she's basically bringing that same energy from high school to college. Multiple classmates have called her generally awful, which honestly is kind of impressive when you think about how hard it must be to maintain that reputation consistently. Trophy. Here's the thing about Vanderbilt. It's not exactly your average college experience. We're talking serious old money vibes, but apparently even those rich kids think Apple's doing too much. She joined a sorority, shocking, I know, and sources say she's basically using it as her personal mean girl squad. It's giving very Regina George, but make it 2025. The tea gets even hotter when it comes to her attempts at campus theater. Multiple sources claim she keeps auditioning for productions, but can't land roles because, wait for it, she's just not talented enough. Ouch. Imagine having a rock star dad and an Oscar-winning mom, but not inheriting either of their talents. That's gotta sting. Speaking of her mom, let's talk about these Gwyneth 2.0 vibes we're getting. Remember how Gwyneth became the queen of out-of-touch comments? Vagina candles, anyone? Well, Apple's apparently following in those goop wife footsteps. Students say she throws around her family name like it's a platinum card, expecting special treatment everywhere she goes. But here's what's fascinating. While Gwyneth at least built her own empire, however questionable goop might be, Apple seems to be skating by purely on the family name. She's not launching businesses or starring in movies. Instead, she's just existing expensively. The only thing she's really done is model a bit. And let's be real, that's basically a Nepo baby starter pack at this point. The mother-daughter parallels are wild though. Both have been called entitled, both seem to live in their own privileged bubble, and both apparently have a talent for rubbing people the wrong way. But at least Gwyneth earned her right to be pretentious. I said what I said. What's really sending me is how both mom and daughter handle criticism. While Gwyneth just doubles down and sells more questionable wellness products, Apple's team goes into overdrive trying to scrub negative stories from the internet. But honey, in 2025, screenshots last forever. And don't even get me started on what happened at that charity event last month. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. The sheer power of having Gwyneth Paltrow and Chris Martin as your damage control team. While most of us would be canceled faster than a Netflix show for half the stuff Apple's allegedly done, she's somehow floating above it all in her bubble of privilege. The way negative stories about her mysteriously vanish from the internet? Pure magic, and probably some very expensive lawyers. Those NDAs from the Harvard-Westlake scandal probably cost more than most people's college tuition. But that's the thing about privilege. It's not just about having money. It's about having the connections to make problems disappear. Think about it. When was the last time you saw a major news outlet do a deep dive into these allegations? Exactly. Meanwhile, they're falling over themselves to cover her fashion moments and society debuts. It's giving very much pay attention to the pretty dress, not the mess energy. What's wild is how this level of privilege actually works against her. Every time her team scrubs a negative story, 10 more pop up from students and classmates who are tired of the cover-ups. It's like playing whack-a-mole with bad press, except the moles are Gen Z with Instagram accounts and zero fear. The real tea is how this whole situation shows the gap between old school PR and modern reality. Sure, you can get traditional media to play nice, but you can't stop everyone with a TikTok account from sharing their Apple encounters. And trust me, those stories are spreading faster than a viral dance challenge. But here's the million-dollar question. How long can privilege protect you when your reputation's already this messy at 20? Because even with all that power and money, you can't buy public opinion, though it looks like the Martin Paltrow clan is definitely trying. So where does this leave our favorite controversial Nepo baby? At just 20, Apple Martin's already got more drama than a CW series, and something tells me we're just getting started. Will she follow mommy's footsteps into the wellness industry? Or maybe surprise us all with a Coldplay collab, though those theater audition stories suggest maybe not. The thing is, Apple's story is like a masterclass in how privilege works in 2025. Sure, you can have all the money and connections in the world, but in the age of social media, you can't completely hide who you really are. Between the bullying allegations, the diva behavior, and those very telling student accounts, a pretty clear picture is emerging. And it's not exactly giving America's sweetheart. But hey, she's young, and there's still time for character development. Maybe all this backlash will lead to a redemption arc. Or maybe she'll just keep living her best privileged life, unbothered by the peasants' opinions. Only time, and probably some leaked TikToks, will tell. Y'all know I live for these deep dives into celebrity drama. And if you do too, smash that subscribe button and join the Tell It All family. We're serving fresh tea every week, and trust me, I've got some wild stories coming up about other Nepo babies that'll make Apple's drama look like a Disney movie. Drop an Apple emoji in the comments if you want part 2 of this story, because believe me, there's more where this came from. Until next time, keep it real and keep spilling that tea.